Welcome to the Celtic Myth Pod Show, bringing the tales and stories of the ancient Celts to your fireside. Episode 4, The Coming of Lugh. Hello and welcome to the Celtic Myth Pod Show. This is episode 4 and I'm Gary.
And I'm Ruth.
Welcome to the show. We'll start off with some news and views.
So we've had a horrendous time with the website.
You're not wrong.
You know the technicalities of this. So see if you can explain to our listeners what's happened.
Okay, I'll have a go. The website software that we were using was very, very clever, just too clever. What it was trying to do was update itself, and in the middle of the update, we had an uploading problem, so it managed to corrupt the database. Now what we've done is we've tried to redesign the website so that it's designed in pieces rather than using just one big piece of software. So if something happens like that in the future, the whole lot won't go down. Hopefully we will also be seeing a new forum system soon. So we're really looking forward to getting some people talking to us again.
Yes, that would be really good. And we hope to get that up sometime next week. We will let you know.
Absolutely. And before we move on to part 4 of the Book of Invasions...
This is Philippa Ballantyne from Chasing the Bard, the podcast novel. And you're listening to the Celtic Myth Pod Show, the #1 favourite podcast of Fae everywhere.
You can find out more about Philippa's great podcast at the end of the show. Hello to all our new listeners. We hope you're enjoying the show. It's well worth going back and... downloading the first couple of episodes so that you can catch up with the story, because it starts to get exciting from here on.
That's right. And moving on to the story then, a quick review of what's happened. The Tuada Danaan, mysterious gods of the Irish, land on the shores of Erin and wish to settle. The Firbolg, who are currently in charge, refuse to allow them, and a huge ferocious battle takes place in which 100,000 die. The High King of the Tuada Danaan loses his arm, and Bres the Beautiful is chosen to lead the Children of Danu. His rule is harsh, and when Nuada is healed, Bres is asked to step down. Seeking revenge, he travels to the Northern Islands to seek the aid of his rampaging kin, the Fomori. Balor, the mighty king of the Fomori, is keen to listen to Bres. And now, episode 4. The Coming of Lugh. Sun-steamed, wind-moist mist seeped with misty fingers down into the trees around Teamhair as the warmth of the day took full hold. Bright dew still lingered on the tall grass on the slopes leading up to the fort, and the morning birdsong had stilled as the stranger toiled up to the mighty gates. Little did Nuada the High King know, as he sat with the nobles of the Tuada Danaan, that at that very moment a fleet of ships with dark prows were covering the northern seas like a flock of gulls feasting on plentiful fish. At their head stood mighty Balor, a mountain of muscle nearly twice man-height, his brow furrowed and his one eye fastened firmly on the shores of Erin. Beside him stood Bres, eager for revenge, and above them circled ravens as if eager for the bloodshed. The ships of mighty Balor, grandson of Net, were so numerous that they looked like a bridge of ancient wood stretched between the islands of the Fomori and the strands of Erin. Little did Nuada know that at the gates of sleepy Tavir an important stranger was even now saying eldritch words of power. Words that brought one of the ancient four-she guardians of Tavir from out of the deeps to stand before the young man. Gamal, whose vast mind only rarely linked with the mortal realm, took bright shape and regarded the man. Tall, with long, fair, curling hair, and dressed as a high-born noble, a bright light shining from within him.
Who are you yourself?
I am Lugh, son of Cian of the Tuada de Danaan, and of Eithne, daughter of Balor, king of the Fomor, and I am foster son of Teltu, daughter of the king of the Great Plain, and of Eochaid the rough, son of Duach.
What is your skill? For no one without art or skill comes to Tavir.
Then question me, for I am a carpenter.
We have no need of you. We have a carpenter ourselves, Luchtar, son of Lugh.
Then I am a smith.
We have a smith ourselves, Colum Cuaillemech of the 3 new ways.
Then I am a champion.
That is no use to us. We have a champion, Ogma, brother to the king.
Then question me again, for I am a harper.
That is no use to us. We have a harper ourselves, Abhean, son of Bechelmos, that the men of the 3 gods chose in the she-hells.
I am a poet and a teller of tales.
That is no use for us. We have a teller of tales ourselves, Urk, son of Ethelman.
I am a wielder of the magic.
That is no use to us. We have plenty of magicians and people of power.
I am a healer.
That is no use, for we have Diankek for our healer.
Let me be a cupbearer and call upon the power of water.
We do not want you. We have 9 cupbearers of Danu ourselves.
I am a good worker in brass.
We have a worker in brass ourselves. That is Credne Caird.
Go and ask the king if he has any one man that can do all these things. And if he has, I will not ask to enter Tavir.
It shall be done, Lugh, son of Cian.
Gamal, guardian of the she-home, what has brought you forth?
There is a young man at the door with craft of power, and he has rightly asked my permission to enter Tavir, and now he would stand before you. His name should be the Samuel Donach, the master of all arts. For all of the things the people of your house can do, he himself is able to do. Every one of them.
Interesting. Then try him with the gaming boards. And so it was done, and Lugh played the game, and every game that he played, he won. And when Nuada was told that, he said, "Let him in, for the like of him never came into Tavir before." So the doorkeeper and the king let him pass, and he came into the king's house and sat down in the seat of the sage, for he was a sage in every art. And there was a great flagstone there that could hardly be moved by 4 times 20 yoke of oxen, and Ogma took it up and hurled it out through the house so that it lay on the outside of Tavir, as a challenge to Lugh. But Lugh hurled it back again so that it lay in the middle of the king's house, and he threw the piece which it had carried away back into the side of the royal hall so that it was whole again. The warrior played a sleep strain with his harp for the hosts and for the king on the first night. He cast them into a sleep from that hour to the same time on the following day. He played a wail strain so that they were crying and lamenting. He played a smile strain so that they were in merriment and joyance. And when Nuada saw all these things Lugh could do, he began to think that by his help the country might get free of the taxes and the tyranny put on it by the Fomor. So he came down from his throne, and he put Lugh on it in his place for the length of 13 days, the way they might all listen to the advice he would give. It was a good while after this that Nuada was holding a great assembly of the people on the hill of Uisnech, on the west side of Tavir, and they were not long there before they saw an armed troop coming towards them from the east over the plain, and there was a young man in front of the troop, in command over the rest, and the brightness of his face was like the setting sun, so they were not able to look at him because of its brightness. And when he came nearer, they knew it was Luachaid of the long hand that had come back to them, and along with them were the riders of the She from the land of promise, and his own foster brothers, the sons of Manannan, Scoith Glegale, the white flower, and Eithne Gorm-Shuileach, the blue-eyed spear, and Sheena Shinderg of the red ring, and Donn-Ruadh of the red-brown hair. And then they beheld Lugh in all his glory, for he had Manannan's horse, the Invar, of the one mane under him, that was swift as the naked cold wind of spring, and the sea was the same as dry land to her, and the rider was never killed off her back. And he had Manannan's breastplate on him that kept whoever was wearing it from wounds, and a helmet on his head with 2 beautiful precious stones set in the front of it and one at the back. And when he took it off, his forehead was like the sun on a dry summer day. And he had Manannan's sword, the Fregatach, the answerer, at his side, and no one that was wounded by it would ever get away alive. And when that sword was bared in battle, no man that saw it coming against him had any more strength than a woman in childbirth. And the troop came to where Nuada, High King of Erin, was with the Tuada Danaan, and they welcomed one another. They were not long there until they saw a surly, slovenly troop coming towards them, 9 times 9 of the messengers of the Fomor, that were coming to ask rent and taxes from the men of Erin. And the names of the 4 that were the hardest and most cruel were Eithne and Edvech and Corran and Compar. And there was such a great dread of these 4 on the Tuada Danaan that not one of them would so much as punish his own son or his foster son without leave from them. They came up then to where the king of Erin was with the riders of the Sidhe, and the High King and all the Tuada Danaan stood up before them. "Why do you rise up before that surly, slovenly troop, when you didn't rise up before us?" "We must do it. For if there was but a child of us sitting before them, they would not think that too small a cause for killing that child." "Oh, by my word, there is a great desire coming on me to kill them all." "That is a thing that would bring harm on us, for we would meet our own death and destruction through it." "You have spent too long under this oppression." And then Lugh of the long arm cast himself amongst them, laying about him with the answerer, the great sword of Manannan. His fury was great, and the heat of it caused brave warriors to wither. Where he turned, death followed. Where he struck, the Fomori fell. "You have made an end of 8 nines of them." "And the last 9 go under your protection, Nuada King." What are you going to do with us?" "I would kill you along with the others, but I would sooner see you go with messages to your own country than to my own people, lest they get any ill treatment." So the 9 went back then, till they came to Lochlan, where the men of the Fomor were, and they told them the story from beginning to end, and how a young, well-featured lad had come into Erin, and had killed all the tax-gatherers but themselves. Standing before Balor, they said, "The reason he let us go was that we might tell you the story ourselves."
"Do you know who is this young man?"
I know well, husband.
"What do you know, Caitlin?"
He is the son of your daughter and mine. It was foretold that from the time he would come into Erin, we would never have power there again forever.
Then the chief men of the Fomor went into a council. Abe, son of Ned, and Shanchab, grandson of Ned, and Sital Salvor, and Liah, son of Lobes, and the 9 poets of the Fomor that had learning and the gift of foreknowledge, and Lobes the druid, and Balor himself and his 12 white-mouthed sons, and Caitlin of the crooked teeth, his queen. And it was just at that time Bres and his father Alata were come to ask help of the Fomor. "Mighty Balor, I myself will go to Erin, and 7 great battalions of the riders of the Fomor along with me, and I will give battle to this Samil Donach, this master of all arts, and I will strike his head off and bring it here to you to the green of Bres."
"It would be a fitting thing for you to do."
"Let my ships be made ready for me, and let food and provisions be put in them." So they made no delay, but went and got the ships ready, and they put plenty of food and drink in them. And 2 swift expeditions were sent out to gather the army to Bres. And when they were all gathered, they made ready their armour and their weapons, and they set out for Erin.
"Give battle to that Samel Danach, and strike off his head, and tie that island that is called Erin to the back of your ships, and let the destroying water take its place, and put it on the north side of Lochlan. And not one of the men of day will follow it there to the end of life and time.
Then they pushed out their ships and put up their painted sails, and went out from the harbour on the untilled country, on the ridges of the wide-lying sea, and they never turned from their course till they came to the harbour of Eistara. And from that they sent out an army from West Connaughta, and the king of Connaughta at that time was Bovderg, the son of the Dagda. They destroyed it altogether, through and through. And then on the morrow Nuada met with his two brothers, even Dagda and Ogma, on Gorelach-doled, and his brothers Goban and the Dianchecht were summoned to them. A full year were they in that secret converse, wherefore Gorelach-doled is called Ambron, or chanting of the men of the goddess. And thereafter the wizards of Erin were summoned to them, and their healers and charioteers and smiths and farmers and brehon the law-talkers, and they held speech with them in secret. Tell me, Megan, mighty sorcerer, what power can you wield in the coming battle? I will cast the mountains of Erin onto the Fomori, and roll their summits against the ground. The 12 chief mountains of the land of Erin, the mountains of the great god, will support the Tuada in battling for us. They are the Sleeve-Lee and Denna-Ulad, and the Morn Mountains, and Bree-Rory and Sleeve-Bloom and Sleeve-Snechtai, Slemish, and Blai-sliab, Nemton, and Sleeve-Macubelgadon and Seges and Cruachan-Egle. Tell me, O cupbearers, what power can you wield?
I will bring the 9 chief lochs of Erin, the sacred waters of the great goddess, before the Fomor, so that they would not find water therein wherever thirst might seize them. These are those lochs: Loch Derg, Loch Luimni, Loch Horib, Loch Ree, Loch Mask, Loch Nia, Loch Gara, Loch Ria, and Morloch. We will hide the 9 chief rivers of Erin from the Fomor, even the Bush, the Boyne, the Ban, the Nem, the Shannon, Moy, Erin, Liffey, and Sweer, and they will not find a drop therein. Drink shall be provided for the men of Erin, though they bide in the battle to the end of 7 years.
Figol, son of Mamos, my druid, what power can you wield?
From the realm of the Sidhe I will cause 3 showers of fire to pour on the faces of the Fomori host, and I will take out of them 2/3 of their valour and their bravery and their strength. I will bind their urine in their own bodies and in the bodies of their horses. Every breath that the men of Erin shall exhale will be an increase of valour and bravery and strength to them. Though they bide in battle to the end of 7 years, they will not be weary in any wise.
Mighty Dagda, what power will you wield?
The power of which you boast, I shall wield it all by myself.
You are indeed an excellent god. Henceforth shall you be known as the Dagda, he of the good hand. Then they separated from the council, agreeing to meet again that day in 3 years' time. After the preparation for the battle had been settled, Lugh and the Dagda and Ogma went to the 3 gods of Danu, and they gave Lugh equipment for the battle, which weapons they had been preparing for them and making for them for 7 years. And the Morrigan gave this blessing to Lugh.
Undertake a battle of overthrowing. Awake, O child of promise.
In the next episode, a murder is committed and the Dagda is seduced.
Before we get to listener feedback, we'd like to talk about something that's close to our hearts.
You must have heard by now that a lot of the action in our stories takes place at the court of Tvir in Erin. It's fascinating to know that the site still exists, but today we know it as Tara in County Meath in Ireland. The site has been sacred to the Celts for thousands of years. It was the home of their gods, the Sidhe royal family, and also the political seat of government, the seat of the High Kings. If you get a chance, look up some of the details about Tara on the web. It's absolutely beautiful. It's sad to say, however, that the Irish government is cutting a major motorway through the centre of the Tara Valley, ignoring all wishes, both national and international, to reroute the road. This is a very controversial issue which we don't really have the time to explore, but if you visit www.savetara.com, that's SAVETARA, you can find out all about it and possibly sign the petition to increase pressure to save the monument. We were thinking about recording a special episode about Tara for you in the future to give you more details about this sacred site and what's happening there at the moment. Let us know if you'd like us to produce this extra podcast about Tavir.
You gave me many names. Anat, the Morrigan, Athena, but never found my true one, Sidhe the Shining. The Fae have chosen to live apart from you. After all that we have given, you humans deserve nothing from us. That was until I discovered the Bard, possessing a fearsome power that might save my people from annihilation. This Shakespeare will serve me, whether he cares to or no. Come, let me show you how the dark goddess can change minds of mere mortals.
Chasing the Bard, the award-nominated dark fantasy, written and produced by Philippa Ballantyne. Subscribe at www.chasingthebard.com. There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of.
And now for some listener feedback.
We've had a brilliant email from Byron who says,
I really like what you're doing and hope you keep it up. I'm a first-year Irish Studies major at St Mary's University in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and your podcast really brings to life the mythology I've been trying desperately to learn, and it makes it go down so much easier than the books I have. One note on pronunciation I thought you might like to know. With regards to the Lebor Gabala Erin, the proper pronunciation is Lor Gavla Erin.
That's really helpful, Byron. Thank you very much. It's nice to know that the stories are not just entertaining but helping people with their studies as well. We really appreciate the pronunciation advice. It makes it so much more realistic to have the names sounding as they should. Thank you again.
Absolutely. And we got another email from Morgana, and she suggested,
the forums do look a bit academic, and thus perhaps a little off-putting in their present form. Could they perhaps be simplified a little with this in mind? You can always expand things later if they take off, as I'm sure they will. Whatever happens, keep it coming. You already have some dedicated listeners and friends out here, and it can only grow.
Oh, thank you, Morgana, for these suggestions. They're all superb. You've managed to put your finger on what was bothering us about the forums, so thank you. We'll try and tighten them up when the new forums go live.
We'd like to thank you all for your support and staying subscribed. If you find us on iTunes or another podcast directory, don't forget to vote for us or write a review. Send us your emails, your comments and your voice feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, that wraps up this episode, and until next time, Slán go bhfuil. You've been listening to the Celtic Myth Pod Show, available from CelticMythPodShow.com. We hope you've enjoyed the show and will stay tuned for the next episode. You can send us a quick email or voice feedback by emailing either Gary, that's Gary, or Ruth, Ruth, at CelticMythPodShow.com. You can chat to us in the forums on our website. The show notes for this episode can also be found on the website. We'd like to say a special thank you to Cuaillemech's Hounds, who provided us with the theme music for our show. You heard Hag Hole at the beginning and are listening to The Skylark now. You can find out more about this foot-stomping band at www.sfhounds.com. And thanks again to Diane Arkinstone and Kim Robertson, whose music has been used for some of the incidental music in this podcast. You'll find links to their websites in our show notes.